It's another edition of Time About the Movies, coming a couple of days late, I know. Things got in the way. Monday night, of course, was the Monday Night Football game between the Jets and the Steelers. I just got back from the Penguins hockey game against the Minnesota Wild, which could be Marc-Andre Fleury's last game in general in Pittsburgh, because he might retire after the season. But if you go to check those videos out, I'll have links to them in the description below, and you can also go check them out on the main page as well. But you're not here to hear me talk about that. You're here to hear me talk about the movies of April 28th, 2006. We got 4 movies to look at here. Notable movies overall. Robin Williams starring in an RV comedy. The first official studio film about the September 11th attacks. We also have, just had it and I lost it for a second. Come on, remember it. I just had it in my head. Jeff Bridges starring in a gymnastics comedy. Good lord. And also Keke Palmer making her leading feature film debut in a film that nowadays is kind of underrated, but at the time was a highly acclaimed film in general. But we'll eventually get to that movie as we'll go along here. We have a lot to get to here. I've already wasted your time trying to remember that third movie in particular, but maybe an indication of how that movie has lasted over time. But anyway, let's get right to it. Let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, which is the Barry Sonnenfeld directed, keep in mind, movie with Robin Williams starring in it. This is RV.
Cass?
God, what?
What happened to that little girl who used to go, Daddy's home, watch TV in separate rooms, and we IM each other when dinner's ready?
Let's change things.
On April 28th,
Mom, some idiot just parked this RV outside our house. Oh my God, it's Dad.
you're invited
Good news.
I'm adopted.
Good one.
to spend some quality time
You got a boyfriend?
Yeah, actually, I'm engaged.
Unlikely.
with the family.
Cassie and Earl are making out.
I got him in the rearview mirror. Boy, I don't know what the hell he's doing.
RV.
Does anybody have a Vanna bag?
PG.
From the director of Get Shorty and Men in Black. And I'm not even kidding, that's how they sold it in the trailer. A family film, by the way, rated PG, and they're using the director of Get Shorty and Men in Black as the selling point of the film. Does this movie look like anything that would come from Barry Sonnenfeld, the director of The Addams Family, or Get Shorty, or the Men in Black movies? I certainly don't think it does, and yeah, I think a lot of people were taken aback by that, and like the fact that he actually had his name attached to this movie, and also had a cameo in it on the truck as well. But Robin Williams plays a beverage company executive with his dysfunctional family led by Cheryl Hines' wife and JoJo from Aquamarine, and also a singer as well as the older daughter and the younger son played by Josh Hutcherson pre-Hunger Games. And they rent an RV for a road trip from Los Angeles to the Colorado Rockies, where they ultimately have to contend with a bizarre community of campers, including a family that includes Jeff Daniels and Kristen Chenoweth as the mother and father of that family. And, yeah, like I said before, man, there's nothing about this movie that screams a Barry Sonnenfeld film, because this feels like this is the film that I feel like is the movie that really took his career way downhill. Because, yeah, he'd do another Men in Black movie after this, but then he'd followed up with easily the worst movie he's ever made as a director. And Wild Wild West is bad, but 9 Lives is the worst thing he's ever done as a whole. This is probably his 3rd worst film overall. And I think it's only because Robin Williams is trying the best he can to save the movie whatever he can, but even then, this is just a watered-down, lazy version of Vacation. I mean, this is Johnson Family Vacation all over again. This is Are We There Yet? At least Are We There Yet had those moments of what the hell is going on here that made it somewhat enjoyable to watch, somewhat fun at times. But this, I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they made this movie. I mean, nobody should have been that desperate to make a movie like this. Nobody. Because not only you have the people I mentioned before, Will Arnett also is in the movie. You have Hunter Parrish, who you've seen in a number of different things, such as The New Adventures of Old Christine. Just Tony Hale's in here. Matthew Gray Gublin from Criminal Minds and Alvin and the Chipmunks. But, again, none of this movie feels like a film that anybody had their heart and soul to it. Columbia Pictures literally, I feel like they literally wrote Barry Sonnenfeld a check and said, hey, we got this movie here, and we might get Robin Williams for it. You want to come in and direct it? Sure. And then they told him, you can't be Barry Sonnenfeld, though. You just have to be a normal director. It's just like, sure, if you're giving me this paycheck, why not? Because this movie does not feel like a Barry Sonnenfeld movie. Even Robin Williams, this doesn't feel like a role that Robin Williams wanted to do. This felt like a movie he took because of a bad paycheck, because They don't even let him be himself in this movie. Like, what do we go to see Robin Williams to do? We would go to see him act, make us laugh, do the crazy things that we love about him that has made him the institution that he is. And none of that is in this movie. None of that is in this film whatsoever. He's playing it so straight, and like the humor is just sucked out of this movie right from the get-go. This movie is one of those movies that's written for dumb people. This is a film that's written for dumb families. They need a family film to go see out there, and they see the poster with Robin Williams on the front of it and says, "Hey, Robin Williams is in it. It's an RV movie, It's a road movie. I mean, kids and look, they're throwing poop at Robin Williams because why not? Because we need something to kill 2 hours with. So let's go take our kids that won't shut the hell up to the theater, and we'll just sit there texting on our phones or something like that. Because I guarantee you that's exactly what happened when this movie came out. And because there was no superior family films that people wanted to go see, although there was one that came out this weekend that we'll get to. This was a monster hit at the box office, and I'm actually kind of surprised they have not made a sequel to it yet, even a direct-to-DVD sequel. But then I might have jinxed it because, Sony's one of those companies that will just make sequels for no particular reason whatsoever. They made a sequel to The Benchwarmers, for God's sakes, without Rob Schneider or David Spade or John Heater, so what was the point of even making that? Honestly, but then again, it's just like I said, there's nothing of value in this movie whatsoever. It's a lame movie. I went to see it thinking, hey, it's got Barry Sonnenfeld's name, it's got Robin Williams' name to it. They've got to bring us stuff in here, and nope, not at all. This is about as generic and as bad as you get, and it fails on so many levels. So that is RV. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next movie we have here, the most controversial movie of the weekend, and that is the first official studio release film about the September 11th attacks, and that is Paul Greengrass's United 93.
Welcome aboard United Flight 93 with service to San Francisco. The temperature is 70.
On our way as quickly as possible.
93, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
United 93, traffic peak, 1 o'clock, 12 miles, eastbound 370. United 93, verify your level of 350. United 93, level. United 93, level. United 93, the equivalent center ahead. Get out of here! I got some business on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a level 4. Hello?
Honey, it's me. My flight has been hijacked.
We're turned around.
2 planes hit the World Trade Center. They flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center. We gotta assume it's the same guy. We gotta assume it's the same guy.
Oh my God. I think we're heading to Washington.
Well, we have to do something. We're running out of time. I think they're going to do something stupid. Hey! There are a bunch of us here. We can overwhelm them. Yes, we can take them down. Weapons, we've got what we have. We are going to take action on it.
Mom, I have to go. They're about to storm the cockpit. I love you.
So the controversy behind this movie in general was because of mostly the fact that, like I said, this was the first official theatrically released movie that's digesting into the events of September 11th, 2001, where mostly centering around the events around United Airlines Flight 93, and as you see in that trailer there, the film was originally going to be called Flight 93, but I think another movie had already bought the rights to that title, and so they eventually used it for that. getting back to the synopsis here, Flight 93, of course, was one of the 4 hijacked flights during the September 11th attacks on America. Flight 93 was the only plane to not hit its intended target due to the intervention of passengers and crew. The film also covers the experiences of government officials and traffic controllers. Many of them are played by themselves as they witness the other events of the attacks unfolding that day. And it's done in a real-time perspective, so there's a sense that the film takes place over the exact same amount of time that the real-life events beginning from the plane's takeoff start to take shape. There is a disclaimer at the beginning, though, that some imagination had been used to tell the story. Overall, United 93 was made with the people involved with the passengers' families, and many of them attended the premiere, and though there were few that didn't support the film and didn't participate in any of the film's activities. So there was that controversy of mostly the fact that this was a studio-driven film, and everyone was looking at it going like, is it too soon to do this? Yeah, it's 5 years after the events, but we would have a couple of these movies that could, and not just in theaters, but TV as well. I think ABC had the 9/11 Commission Report miniseries, I think, that came out around the same time. And then later in the year, Oliver Stone will direct a movie with Paramount, World Trade Center, which I think of the movies that released this year, that one's the most underrated movies in general. But this is the one that everyone remembers mostly. I remember going to see this movie after I saw RV, and I went to the theater. It was a packed theater because where I live, Somerset County, where the plane actually went down, is about, I think, maybe about an hour away from here. So I actually went there once when we were going out to Ocean City, and we were just driving past the flight memorial. It was the 20-year anniversary of September 11th when we were driving, so we went down there. It's really impressive to look at, man. Like, you go down there and it's just a straight line, and then you just see the empty area where the plane had crashed, and everyone's just dead silent. And I've actually taken some video of this on the trip down there, so if I can, I'll go ahead and put the link to that in the corner as well, so you can go check that out, because like, it's an experience if you've gone down there. Like, it's amazing to see how this place is just so quiet, and like, not a single person makes a sound while they're watching this. Nobody's on their phones talking. They're just taking a look at all the area where the planes hit. And it's just really impressive. It's really impressive, that kind of experience. But like I said, when I went to see this, it was a packed theater. There were people coming in and standing on the sides where the exits were to watch this movie because of how close this plane was when it went down on September 11th. And it's just a really good movie. Paul Greengrass directed this, who had found success with The Bourne Supremacy a couple years prior to this, and this was a movie that really propelled him as that great director that he would eventually become following this, because he would do The Bourne Ultimatum. He would do a lot of other movies as well following this, and he's a great filmmaker in general, and he does a fantastic job of helping the audience recapture that moment in time when this moment in our history took place, and giving us a perspective from inside the plane of how these people took down these terrorists to stop this plane from crashing into Washington. And it's just a very intriguing film in general here. And there are notable character actors involved in this movie. Not a lot of big names in general, but names you would be familiar with if you saw their faces. Like Cheyenne Jackson, you've seen him in a couple things, a lot of stuff for like 30 Rock, and he was in the Munsters reboot Mockingbird Lane. David Allen Bosch is a character actor you've seen many times before. Denny Dillon was on Saturday Night Live. David Raish, of course, was on Sledgehammer back in the day. If this is the same, Sledgehammer. You also have Greg Henry, who's an actor back in the day too. I can't remember. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Olivia Thirlby, who later be seen the following year in Juno. There are names in here, but they're mostly character actors, and you really, once you see the names and you see the faces that they attach to, if you know the stuff they've been in before, you get kind of an idea of who's who in the movie. And it does a very good job of not making this a star-studded movie in general, and having the stars be in control of the film in general. Like, World Trade Center has more of a star power to it because that's Nicolas Cage and Michael Pena at the top of the cast in general. But even that movie does a pretty good job of not letting the star power get to them in that sense. This movie, I think, also does a very good job. Does probably a better job of creating realistic fictional characters out of people that we've seen in many films similar to this in general. And I've talked about, and the subject matter is also very good too, how they handle this. I've talked about in the past how, my September 11th What Happened on September 11th with me. I've talked about that in several videos in the past. I'm sure you could definitely find it on this channel too. But what's interesting about this and World Trade Center is that it definitely shows a contrast in terms of its ending. This one obviously has the more tragic ending because even though they stopped the plane from going to where it was going, all these people still died on the plane, and you know that's just a tragedy of that day in particular. But in World Trade Center, there is more of an uplifting message because Nicolas Cage and Michael Peña's characters are two of the only 20 people that survived, you know, being stuck in the rubble during the when they were inside the World Trade Center. And you can definitely look at both of these movies and see a definite contrast in its endings. And what I really like about both of these movies in general, this one shows you the cold, hard reality of what happened on that day. And World Trade Center also does that too, but gives you that whole optimism when they bring those guys out of the rubble. And I mean, this is just such an amazing film, man. I can't recommend this one enough. It's definitely one of the best movies of the year. Definitely was a movie that was way ahead of its time. It was a film that definitely should have been probably made, well, a couple more years down the road, just so, not 5 years afterwards, but it got made, and I'm glad it did, because it made for an incredible, incredible movie in the process. I can't recommend this one enough. United 93, definitely see it if you haven't seen it already. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is the film that I completely forgot about at first. Jeff Bridges starring in Stick It.
Every day, I break the law of gravity. And sometimes other laws get broken in the process.
Let's get out of here.
If I was lucky, I would have gotten sentenced to juvie. Instead, I got sent back to the world I thought I'd escaped forever. Welcome to the Vickerman Gymnastics Academy.
What is she doing here?
Why all the hate? When you walk out on finals and lose Team USA some team gold, it's not personal, it's national.
Haley Graham has come out of retirement and trained with us.
You've really gotten skinny, fat.
Oh, goody.
And if you saw that trailer, maybe you probably would realize why this movie has been largely forgotten in my mind, because, yeah, that's a horrible trailer. You have a Haley Graham, played by Missy Perigum, who's a former gymnast turned juvenile delinquent. By the way, she's 24 in real life, and they put her as a 17-year-old. Anyway, who, after one too many run-ins with the law, is forced to enroll at an elite gymnastics academy, the VGA in Houston, Texas, which is run by legendary Olympic gymnast Burt Vickerman, played by Jeff Bridges. But the rebellious Haley is not welcomed into the academy by the other teenage gymnasts, who despise her for walking out on her junior Olympic team years earlier during a competition which cost them the gold medal. But Haley is not a docile person either, and makes every effort to provoke conflicts with the other girls. Vickerman takes it upon himself to coach Haley in his own way, to make her regain her self-respect for the VGA's coming spot on the Gymnastics Nationals. This is written by the same person that did Bring It On, and directed by the same person who did Bring It On. I guess that they were kind of hoping this was going to be kind of the Bring It On for Disney in general, and it just doesn't have that same spark to it. Bring It On, it worked because it was not just a movie that was simply straight for a specific audience in general. There's like adults can go, like people who weren't into cheerleading as a whole could still go into that movie and find a lot to admire about it, like from the look of the women in there, from the fact that it's more adult than you would expect it to be. This one pretty much plays it straight through, and there's really not a whole lot of shock and surprise or even laughs in this movie in general. Jeff Bridges himself, too, is trying his best to hold this movie together, and there's just nothing there for him to stick with this movie. I mean, he's trying the hardest he can, and even he feels like he's forced into it here. I mean, it's not Man of the House bad with Tommy Lee Jones, but it's up there, man. This is not a very good movie, and you can tell why I completely forgot about it, because the movie itself is not memorable in any way, shape, or form. It's a bland movie. It's a film that wants to be more adult, like Bring It On, but still wants to retain the Disney family-friendly image to it, even though this is a Touchstone release. And the end result is a film that has no idea what direction it wants to go into and suffers because of it. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Akeelah and the Bee.
Frost and Victor Fire.
In the greatest competition of their lives,
I've seen them shoot kids up and spit them out.
only the best
Fear is all you get.
will be called
And that was your turn.
Do your best.
champion.
I want to win.
You want to win what?
I want to win a national
Will give Akeelah The Bee 2 thumbs way up. Her best family movie ever.
Why'd you do that? Are you gonna sue me for harassment?
Akeelah and the Bee, rated PG, hit TV this Saturday, everywhere April 28th.
So Akeelah The Bee tells the story of an 11-year-old girl, played by Keke Palmer, making her feature film debut, who participates in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Her mother, Angela Bassett, her schoolmates, and her coach, Dr. Joseph Larrabee, played by Lawrence Fishburne. They also help her out in the spelling bee as well. You also have Curtis Armstrong in here, Eddie Steeples from My Name is Zorro among the cast. It was a highly praised film when it came out, but unfortunately, it's just an example of a far better kids movie that came out on the very same weekend of a really terrible kids movie in RV. That RV got more money, and this movie slipped away from the box office and just fell out of existence altogether. I mean, highly praised movie overall, but yeah, the film definitely has lost a lot of its muster since its time has come out, because the fact that it wasn't a big hit when it came out, and mostly because the film has also been very critical lately because of the way they portray other characters in the movie, specifically Asian American characters in here that get kind of a bad rap in here. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, watching it again almost 20 years later, I can definitely see where they're coming from, because yeah, those portrayals don't really hold up all that well. With that said, though, the movie is still really good, and it works because this is what Keke Palmer, this is what the movie that everyone saw her in for the first time and realized this girl's got a lot of potential as an actress going forward. I mean, at least I thought that, because this would eventually lead to her becoming the actress she is nowadays, and she's really turned out to be a great actress over the years. You also got top talent, Angela Bassett, Lawrence Fishburne. They will never usually turn in a bad performance, even in a movie that's not that great, which this movie is a good movie overall. It definitely has a lot of flaws to it with some of the portrayals in here, but the movie itself is still really good. I think it's still an impressively put together movie that works because of the characters in general, and it is a very uplifting story about this kid who wants to win a spelling bee and become a national champion. And when you watch those spelling bees in general here, you see a lot. You see those kids have to spell the toughest words possible. And yeah, you can understand where this kid is coming from here, and why you wanted to succeed as much as the movie wants you to do it. But it's a really good film. It definitely has a lot of flaws to it, but it's a film that I do say is very enjoyable. I think it's a very solid film overall. It's a very entertaining movie, and one I would definitely recommend checking out. It's one you should definitely give it another shot, especially if you want to see one of Keke's earlier film performances that made her into the star that she is. Great movie overall. I like it a lot. Akeelah The Bee. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we will delve into the summer movie season of 2006. And starting off with a slightly better opening than last year, but maybe not as strong as what one would expect, but still getting a really good movie out of it. J.J. Abrams taking over the Mission Impossible franchise with Tom Cruise and having Philip Seymour Hoffman among the cast in Mission Impossible 3, which was mainly the major turning point for the series in general, going forward with the Mission Impossible series. But we also have An American Haunting. We also have Hoot, which features Brie Larson in one of her early film roles, and also Art School Confidential. So we got 4 films to take a look at. We will delve into all 4 of those movies on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button, because we post videos here every day, and you get updates on when those videos come out. So with all of that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.